Yeah, that's one of the first early Burton signs that was on that Manchester building. It's based off an actual shot of Jake from the '82 catalog. So here's the timeline on our history here at Burton. As you know, it started in 1977. Great early shot of Jake here, slashing some powder turns on a BB1 backhill. Here, another great shot of Jake getting some air, 78. Another one of Jake.
I mean, no, when I started the company in '77, you know, and I moved out of New York City and came up here, and I tooled up this factory I had a good friend and 2 relatives, and we got to where we could make 50 boards a day, and that was our objective, and that wasn't easy, it was tough, but we figured it out.
Jake here in '81, carving some boards, shaping, I should say, and Jake, you know, he made 100 different prototypes. I mean, it's amazing to think of his passion of just before even coming up with the final product to make 100 different ones. This is one of Jake's first prototypes, and it's interesting it's made out of fiberglass. And you know, he said it worked great in powder, but he did say if you come across a rock, you know, just blew the thing up.
So the second year, we'd already basically made enough boards. They were sort of pre-done, and I just had to be assembled. But just, you know, nobody wanted them. So I went from myself plus 3 full-time employees to basically myself plus 1 or 2 high school kids working a little bit after school. So in other words, I had these sort of bigger expectations, and then it just went way down in terms of the whole scale of the company and the scale of my expectations and everything else. I mean, that's probably what I'm proudest of, looking back on the whole thing, is just sort of having the perseverance to get through the whole thing.
In '81, actually, there was a change in the shape. They went from the narrower, maybe, you know, snurfer type to this wide shape, you know, just changed the game. Better float in the powder and just better ride.
Those boards were barely rideable, but as a kid, I got a snurfer, you know, which was a toy-like version of a snowboard. It was much less expensive, but it was fun. You know, there was no doubt about it. I mean, that's why I pursued it, you know, with my life. And so I think once we got boards out there and people got, you know, when we got them to sort of the right people and found the right ways to advertise them, and that's when it just sort of started to go. I mean, I think people just had fun on them.
I met him in a bar on New Year's Eve. I was up skiing at Stratton, so this was like 1981. I was living in New York. He said his name was Jake and he made snowboards, and nobody had ever heard of snowboarding. I said, whatever. I'm way too sophisticated. The first date we had that night, I said, well, let's try it. And it was just a wooden board with a rope and a water ski binding in the front and a strap in the back, and we wore high-top sneakers. And I never thought I'd leave New York for that, but I did.
You'd put one of these on there that help you keep the nose up in powder. And notice, like I mentioned before, the front binding is more like a reminds me of water ski type binding, and then the back here is just like a strap that would go over your toes. And this is a BB1, so that's then the BB2 is a back heel, so it just basically was this without the bindings. The super big change then in '84, right in this era here. Then from here we started doing P-Tex and metal edges, and so this Performer Elite was pretty breakthrough. '85. You know, originally I think Jake, it started off riding like in the backyard and stuff. I think it's just amazing how far it's come from those days.
Skiing and snowboarding in the '80s. It was a scary place. Lawyers ruled the day. And introducing something new to that environment was not welcome. And he took it upon himself as a challenge, and he literally did the legwork, went door to door and sold our sport, you know. Other people's did too. I just don't think they did it to his extent. Granted, you could question the motivations, be like, yeah, well, he's motivated by money, he wants to grow the sport, this, that, and the other thing. Well, regardless of his motivations, 20 years later, there's 10 million snowboarders in the United States who reap the benefits of that, you know?
We didn't get on Stratton until, you know, '84. So I look back, I was like, what the hell were we doing in the first 7 years? But You know, we were hiking hills, riding and stuff, and so it was very, you know, it took a while before we got onto resorts, and that was clearly a huge, you know, move in terms of growing the whole thing and sort of making it bigger. But it took a long time just to get there.
You know, it was very intense in the beginning. It was sort of 24/7. You never got away from it. It's not like, you know, you go home from the office and the problems go away or whatever. But there was never a time when we would have really given it up. And I think we were just passionate about the sport. I think that, you know, we wanted to see the sport grow. We wanted to see more ski areas accepted. Then we wanted to see it grow in Europe. Then we wanted to see it grow in Asia. And then, you know, now we're committed to seeing the women's market grow. So there was always a challenge ahead that had to do with getting more people into the sport, which is what keeps us going, I guess.
And there's Brush, Andy Coughlin, Jamil Khan, I think that's Johan right there. And there's Osea Loftus right there. There's a classic Craig shot. I mean, that was a great air, and that was in Europe, and you know, the O'Neill outerwear thing was going off, and the colors were just pretty fluorescent.
Oh, Jake is the man. Like, he's one of the realest people, you know. The riders, to him, it seems like he's just considered them family, and he's just, since day one, you know, he's not the typical, like, owner of a huge company like that you would expect, you know. He totally is, like, riding with you and just as stoked as everybody else about it. He's not all business. He's totally, like, loves snowboarding and loves the team, and that's just his thing. He's just, like, is so into it, and I guess that's what's brought him so much success, you know, is just because he has genuine love for the sport. He's one of the pioneers.
His office too is sick. You walk in, it's just couches, you know, like full chill, like hippie little. It's dope, you know. You walk in, you're just all, this is your office, dude. Like, you make how much money a year? This is sweet, you know. Jump on the couch, it's all cushy and big, and throw your feet up on the table, and he's doing the same, you know. It's pretty sick. Pretty sick that he's the one that started it all.
I think, you know, resisting the temptation to sell out, you know, or whatever, or go public, or cash out, or whatever, is probably the best thing that we've done, you know. And if I were to point to one thing, I think it would be that.
And you hear it all the time. It's, you know, Burton's corporate, and it's crazy to think that you're going to call the person that helped pioneer the sport, fought to get it in the mountains, made the R&D, invested so much money to bring it to where it is, you're going to call them corporate. It's like the best case scenario on the planet, you know, like the dude that pretty much invented the sport, yeah, he's the corporate guy. It means he handled it, and you have a dude that cares that much about snowboarding dictating where it goes.
We haven't remotely come close to selling out, you know. We're not public, we're privately held, and you know, my family, we own the whole deal. But we are big and we are successful, and you know, being big, there's certain limitations to that. But we try to move as quickly as we can. We try to create fresh stuff and always have part of what we're doing be very forward thinking, but at the same time have the, you know, have the engineering sort of backbone and functionality stuff that we have so dialed.
He just wants the best product, and that's what we all want, you know. That's why Burton's like the rider-driven company, is because they're all about input from us. You know, they want it to look good, but they want it to function more so. At first I was like, wow, he's the boss, like, you know, but he's just like a friend. He's just chill and great. He's just a down-to-earth guy. It's nice to have a boss like that. Not many people get nice bosses, but we do.
Me and the first person we met from the family of the Carpenters was Taylor.
Yeah, I think
his age in school.
His son Taylor was pretty much him, Taylor, and then two other kids that live near, like Jake's house. They're my three first friends, basically. And so my first sleepover was actually at Jake's house, for one. So it's kind of more like, I don't know, I've known him as like a friend's father, you know.
I don't know. I've never really felt like he was a boss ever. I don't know. It's been one of those things where he's just like, especially I don't know if you've met him or not, but he's just like this really mellow, fun guy. He's like, you know, I think the first thing when we were hanging out, he made some joke about what some woman was wearing. You know what I mean? And I was so blown away by it that it caught me so off guard. I'm like, this guy rules. Like, he's all time. So, yeah.
I've rode him a few times at Stowe. It was a storm. There was like 2 feet of fresh snow, so it was pretty cool just riding powder with him. He shreds for sure. He's good. He's real good.
Who doesn't dream to ride for Burton, you know, when he starts to ride? It's just the best company out there for the products, but even more for the team, yeah, for sure. I mean, all the idols, you know, they were there. Johan, Michi, and Terry. Yeah. What makes the brand, you know, the team.
I mean, I hope snowboarding, you know, keeps going and that the riders continue to make more dough. It's weird in this country. I mean, it's sports that people participate in isn't necessarily where all the money is. Nobody's stopping snowboarders or, you know, from looking like NASCAR drivers, you know, and putting patches all over them and selling to, you know, themselves to everybody. I mean, that's not what people want to see. And that's kind of good. I mean, there is this sort of sense of couth that's associated with, I think, all board sports that we don't want to lose. And I think that that might keep things down a little bit smaller, but I think it's, you know, where we all want to live in. You know, we don't want to live in that kind of world. So I think it'll continue to grow and it'll continue to get bigger, but I don't think it's going to necessarily ever get to the point maybe where everybody's such a big deal that they got to carry a gun and stuff like that. I mean, hopefully it'll just sort of keep its you know, its scene.